between the sky. Rely on yourself and no way. Believe.
Good morning. Happy Friday to everybody. It is the end of the week as we know it. End of the week. Hope y'all are doing okay. Really do. Um, if you haven't yet gone to look at the website, do so. I'll be putting up some blogs this weekend. And this weekend, I'm also trying to get back to my book. I put it off for 2 years almost now, and I need to get back to it. I can finish. So I'll be doing my book, and once I get that done, um, ironically, I'm going to get Corey to publish it for me. He has a publishing portion to his company. So I have goals this weekend. I have goals. Of course, my other goal is sleep. I'm going to make sure I sleep. Okay. This week has been rough without getting any. Today's topic, the worm dieth not. I got an email with a very interesting question about souls and hell. And the question was, the mug. Thank you, Joyce. The question was, how can a soul burn? Because the question about fire and a spiritual portion of your body burning for eternity. What's up with that? So it sparked a question for me in my mind about the description of hell and the questions of hell. And I've since gone down some rabbit trails of people who believe that hell is metaphorical. It's not going to really be a real place, and it's just a thought process. And then there's some people who don't believe in it at all. And then it went into the whole heaven on earth thing. And needless to say, it's a very convoluted place to hang out. But I decided to narrow it down to just hell. Just hell. That's where I wanted to just wanted to go forth on this one. Is just to figure on hell. So I want to harp on that. So, and I want to answer one question before we proceed, so I could make it abundantly clear. Why do you never speak about how to receive Christ? If you're the deaf one and the blind one and the ignorant one, that's not my problem. If you're too stupid to listen to what I say, that's not my problem. If you're too moronic to go back and listen to what my programs are about, that's not my problem. If you're too illiterate to figure out what I'm saying, when I say how I say, that's your problem, not mine. If you can't figure this out, that's a you thing. And maybe this channel isn't for you. Because this channel is for people who are not looking for milk. If you are stuck on milk, there are plenty of channels for that. This ain't it. This is not the place for you. Okay? So you have two options. Shut up and listen, or leave. This is your last time I'm going to address you. Okay? Good. You can always go back and listen to other things I've done and see if I mention it, or you can shut up and listen to see if I say it now. But otherwise, Delilah, and you have the perfect name for it, Delilah, perfect. You can leave the room. If I'm a false teacher, I don't know why you're here if I'm a false teacher. You have two options. You can take your feminine self and leave the room and avoid false teachers, or sit down, shut up, and learn. Those are your two options. I don't have anything else for you. Or probably ask your husband to teach you if you got one. Something tells me you don't. Something tells me you don't have a husband to teach you this stuff. Just based on how you talk already. Tells me a lot about what kind of female you are. Probably one of those chatty ones that don't know when to shut up. That sounds like you. So you have two options: shut up and listen, or move along. Okay, good, perfect. Now, as far as hell goes, let me take this clown off the screen real quick. Oh, you just come back on another one? Perfect. Come back on another one. You'll tell yourself out. It's okay. Keep coming back. I have a good block finger. Um, in Mark 9, it says, "But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were thrown into the sea. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. It is better for you to enter into life maimed rather than having two hands to go to hell, into fire that shall not be quenched, where the worm does not die and the fires is not quenched. And if your foot cause you to sin, cut it off. It's better to enter into life lame rather than have 2 feet to be cast into hell, into the fire that will never be quenched, and where the worm dies not and the fire is not quenched. And if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. It is better for you to enter the kingdom of God with one eye rather than having two eyes to be cast into hellfire, where the worm does not die and the fire is not quenched." So, pretty drastic. Pretty drastic, right? So, now something came to me in the process of reading that. I don't think that the sentiment was, in order to not sin, you need to remove the element of sin from your body. I think the sentiment is, if you're using that as your excuse for sin, the solving for that excuse is pretty easy. Remove the part. Some people say, well, I can't help but look. You know that statement? I can't stop what I'm doing. Yeah, you can. It's called removing the body part. If you really are about removing yourself from even the thought and the punishment of hell, and you're trying to use a body part as an excuse as to why you continually do something, it's better that you enter into life lamed, maimed, and blind. Just remove the body part. You have no excuse, is what they're saying. There is zero excuses that you can use. Because if you really are about trying to live a godly life, you would take the steps to do so. And if that means the drastic step of deleting a body part, you do it. You do it. Now, as for hellfire itself, we're not going to be here talking about the merits of getting into hell or avoiding hell. We're talking about hell, period. The existence of it and what will take place there. In Isaiah, where they got that quote about the fire and the worm, um, it mentions that exact same thing. When we look at Isaiah, in Isaiah 66 and verse 24, it says, "And they shall go forth and look upon the corpses of the men who have transgressed against me. For their worm does not die, and their fire is not quenched. They shall be an abhorrence to all flesh." Now, fire, we know cleanses, but also destroys. But the effects of fire, while here on earth, we seem to think is only applicable to material things, okay? So we don't ever think of fire in a consuming spiritual manner, even though he says that he is a consuming fire. So now you have to, figure this out. You have to figure out whether or not the fire he's talking about is literal, figurative, or spiritual. That is the biggest question people have to answer. Or you can ask yourself one bigger question is, do you trust God that what he said will take place. Is it for me to figure out whether or not the fire that will be burning a soul for eternity is literal fire, spiritual fire, or figurative? That's the big question. Because here's the thing: should your avoidance of hell, hear me out, should you avoiding hell be the reason you follow God? That's what I want to know. Is you're following God in order to avoid hell, or are you following God because of who God is? Because if you're following to avoid hell, it's not going to sustain you. It's not going to sustain you long term. It simply isn't. It will last for a few, and then you'll find yourself not having anything in common with God, but you'll have way more in common with the world because what you were trying to do was avoid one thing by trying to trail another. But the incentive of the thing you're trailing is not going to be sufficient because you don't know anything about the thing you're trailing. So let's say, and I mind you, like I told people, I ain't no scholar. I'm reading, taking common sense stuff from the book, what it says, applying it to what I know about God, and I'm making my statements based on that. I'm not going based on what man has told me. I'm not going based on any of that stuff. Let's just take common sense about God under advisement first. Okay? Okay, let's do that. If hell is real, there are two safe things and statements I could make about hell. Hell is the opposite of heaven, and hell is the absence of God. Those are two of the most true statements about hell that you could make, period. Hell, absence of God, and hell. Okay, so we know exactly what hell is. It's not heaven, absence of God. Now, with those two parameters in place, there is zero, and I mean zero, zero incentive to go there. Okay, just on a logical basis. And a soul just on earth alone without God is always under constant torment. They're never happy. They're never with joy. They're constantly upset. You have seen it firsthand what a soul without God looks like. Now, amplify that. Amplify it with zero recourse. Amplify the absence of God to the maximum amount of mathematical equations you can put to it till the end of anything called time. You have no recourse, no escape, no backtracking. It is permanent. Imagine your most depressive state and imagine never, ever, no matter what you did, being able to escape that depressive state. You couldn't die and you couldn't get happy. That's hell. Hell in a nutshell is what you experience here, exponentially amplified because you don't have the recourse of God saving. You can take the metaphor of the worm dying and make it a worm or not a worm. You can take it to be fire or not fire. In either case, it really doesn't matter. Here's why it doesn't matter. And I know people will say, yeah, it does matter about hell and hell is real. I get hell is real. Not saying hell is not real. 100% real. It's going to happen. I just don't know how he's going to execute it, nor do I care how he executes it because I'm not trying to be there to find out. My goal is not to be there to find out. That's the main goal. I ain't going there. Although my life that I live for God is not about avoiding hell. It's an extra incentive not to be there because I know what it's going to be like. But my goal in life is not to avoid hell. Back in the day, plenty of people used to have the turn or burn sermons, right? Turn or burn. That's what you used to hear all the time. These fire and brimstone sermons. You remember those where they had preachers that would come on the screen or they'd have tent meetings and they would excoriate you about hell. And the goal was to scare you enough about hell that you would become a believer to avoid hell. The same thing that people have this idea that God is about happy, joy, joy, love, love today. I can't see it being any difference by using the fear tactic of hell to persuade people to join the kingdom. Hell is it's a fact. Heaven's a fact. But if your goal is either to follow God because of heaven or to avoid hell, you're not following God for the right reasons. I'm sorry to tell you. If your whole premise for following God is to go to heaven or to avoid hell, you're missing out. No, I'm not answering that question. Thank you. You're missing out, like severely missing out. You're doing it for the absolute wrong reasons. Wrong reasons. Heaven is not your goal. Hell is not your avoiding of. Okay, you don't. That's not the reason you follow God. I don't follow God to get away from hell, and I don't follow God to get into heaven. I follow God because of who He is and to worship Him. Period. That's the reason you follow. I answered that question about accountability yesterday. That's what yesterday's podcast was about. Today's podcast is not about accountability. So I'm not going to go back into yesterday's show. It's still up. Everyone can go watch it. It's real easy. So you can just go watch it. I'm doing something here. Okay. I'm doing something here. Uh, so, you have in your wheel well this, okay, as a believer, you have two things. You have this earth that you're functioning in, that you can easily see the effects of what Satan does to people. You can also see the effects of what God does. So you're trying to use heaven or hell as your markers for your behavior. At some point, you're going to run out of a reason. Something's going to hit you that your human comprehension and patience will not be able to tolerate. And you will go to one way or the other. You'll either really start hating the idea of having to do all this just to get into heaven, or you'll be, I don't need to do all this crap. I'd much rather go to hell. Because those two things are linked on what it does for you, and your feelings will always fluctuate. One day you will have a simple fight that will turn into an immense battle because you don't have the comfort of Christ on your side. You don't have it. You don't know how to turn to Him. You don't know how to go to Him. You don't know how to do any of that stuff because you've never practiced it. Because what you have is a ritualistic lifestyle. You go to the church on Sunday, you sing your hymns, you listen, you do your communion thing, and you go home. You go back on Wednesday, and you just keep doing this rut over and over. It's why people have church burnout. It's why they keep hopping from different location to different locations to try and get another high, because they have to keep themselves entertained so that the concept of heaven stays real or the fear of hell stays real. They don't have the relationship that they need to have with God to keep them going. They have incentives. And just like with any incentive, that incentive has a capability of running out. And it will run out. So the concept of hell, of your soul being in eternal torture, burning, weeping, wailing, gnashing of teeth, and screaming, fire everywhere, and you're unable to die, and you can't fully live. It's a horrendous thought. It really is a horrendous thought. Is it real? It's separation from God. He said it was real. He said hell is going to be reserved for the Satan and his angels and for all of his followers. It says it says it. I don't have to question whether or not it exists, but I also don't have to care how it's going to get implemented. Okay, let me ask this. Okay. Listen carefully. Again, this is just me trying to use common sense. That's all I'm trying to do. If heaven is where Christ is going to be and where God is going to be, and you get to witness them in their full glory, this is heaven. Do you honestly think you will care about what the streets are made of? Do you think you'll just logically, do you honestly think you'll care about what the gate, the walls, the city, do you honestly think you'll care? If you are for the very first time ever going to see face to face the one that made you. And do you think that the threat of hell from burning and chaos and screaming could ever in any way compare to the absence of his presence? It the logic behind the fear of hell, just like with any fear, it can be conquered with the acceptance of it. Why do you think so many people today say, I don't care if I go to hell? Many say, I don't care if I go to hell because they no longer fear hell. It is now an accepted thing for them because there was never a knowledge of the alternative of God. There was no knowledge of God, no interaction with God to understand what they would be losing. They have nothing to compare. Nothing. They have no relationship with God. They have no glory to look forward to. So hell is fine. Hell is fine. In their mind, they're already living hell. They don't really have a clue what it's going to be like when they have zero humanity left in them, no traces of what God's inclination is. They have no idea what life is like without that yet. They have no idea. But what they think they have is the absence of it. And then when it's gone, it's a whole different theme. But for now, they think hell is fine. And so they act accordingly, which means you have zero filter, zero care. You behave the way you want and do what you want to do. Then you have the flip side of people who are going to hell, who inundate themselves with the fear of it so much that they preach about the fear of it without actually knowing God Himself. Their reason for going to church, for doing anything, is to avoid hell. And they still end up the exact same way as the people who have accepted hell as their fate. It's in the same boat. Because your goal was not to know God, your goal was to just avoid being in hell. Meanwhile, you're building your bed for it. Then there's a third level of people. And that third level of people who genuinely believe that they're doing something. Now, I say they genuinely believe it, that they're doing something for the kingdom, and they still don't know God. Those are the ones He'll say, I didn't know you. Did we not do this in your name, that in your name, this in your name, that in your name? But they never took the time to know Him. All three will end up the same place. And all three went a different route. One acceptance, one fear, one avoidance. So, what is the true answer to avoiding where the worm dies not and the fires are not quenched? The true answer, the true answer comes in knowing the author. The true answer comes there. He set up the whole parameter of how you get there to begin with. From day one of our fall to now, He set in motion a way to reconcile man to a garden relationship with Him. And that's the only way to avoid either the longing for heaven or the avoiding of hell. He set it up so you don't have to worry about what He's doing when He comes back. You don't have to worry about any of that. That's why I'm not concerned about rapture. I will speak about what it might be and might not, but I don't care about the rapture. I don't care when He's coming back. I'm not going to try and time stuff out. I don't need to do mathematical equations to find out when we're this close. And I am simply looking at time, looking at seeing what's happening, and don't do what they're doing because I'm following something completely different, which is Him. That's the only thing I'm concerned about. That's it. The mere fact that He put in place a process. You see yourself, you see exactly what you deserve. Yes. You saw what He did on the cross. Yes. That was so that you don't have to pay the price that you know you owe. Oh, okay. You have to accept Christ. Perfect. Did that, entered into the kingdom, live a kingdom life. It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. When we make it difficult is we start to say things that He never said. We start to imply things He never implied, and we start to require things He doesn't require. Because for some reason, it's just too simple. He has too many simple things. It's just too cut and dry. We have to make it multicolor. Black and white's too much. You know why black and white's too much? Because it might be something in the black that you want to keep. There might be something in the black you want to keep. That's why you're asking for third and fourth and fifth options. That's probably why you're looking for Him to be all about love That's why you're looking for him to be all about acceptance. You see, because if you can make him to be that, you can then make a case for you to keep a certain amount of yourself as part of the kingdom. I, I just don't care. A lot of the worry about hell comes from a fear that what you're doing may not be enough. I got to stay prayed up. I. Did you know that even if you worked as hard as you could to stay prayed up, you're not the one that would be keeping you out of hell? Do you not realize that? You're not the one keeping people from hell, but you're responsible for going there. Nothing you can do, nothing you can do on your own can keep you from going to hell. Nothing. You can't save yourself from hell. But there is a place you can be that doesn't have hell included in it at all, and it's not heaven. That's in Christ's life, right now, in his life. Many don't want that, though. They don't want that. They want to have the title and the moniker of Christ, but still be recognized as themselves. There are tons of people who are going to say what I said there is blasphemy and against the Bible and all kinds of stuff. Well, if you can read it in the Bible and prove me wrong, perfect. If you can't, then I guess I'm not blaspheming. My life is hid in Christ. It says it's no longer I that live, but him, which blatantly states to me that I can't do nothing. So obviously, if I'm doing a whole lot, I'm not in the location I'm supposed to be in because he's supposed to be doing everything. It, I don't see how that's not logical. It should be normal thinking. If there is a toll that I have to pay if I'm in a car, but I don't have to pay the toll if I'm walking. Those two things are pretty separate, right? Okay, good. I shouldn't expect to have to pay a toll if I'm walking. So consider yourself walking and you don't have a toll to pay. You want something even better. He prepaid every toll that you could possibly pass through, and your car is free and clear to pass through every toll. You have a stamp, it's paid, you're free to go. So I shouldn't have to worry about tolls. But if at every toll I have to wonder, man, I wonder if it's paid up. I wonder if it's this. I wonder, then you don't have the pass. You should obviously know if you have the pass. It should be right there. Questioning that all the time, one of two things is true then. He's a liar or you don't trust him. He's a liar or you don't trust him. Hell exists. Hell is reserved for those who do not, will not, and refuse to know him. Not just follow, know. That's what he said. He didn't say, depart from me. You never followed me. He didn't say, depart from me. You never pursued seeing what I was doing. He didn't say, depart from me because you didn't go to church. He didn't say, depart from me because you didn't preach. He said, depart from me because I never knew you. That's a big statement. That's a massive statement that I never knew you. You never interacted with me on a level that would open up us to knowing each other. You spoke of me, you mentioned me, but you never knew who I was. The knowledge of God is the only tool that you will ever need to live this life fully. Him knowing you, you knowing him. Point blank, period. Now, if you ever wonder how to get to know him, it's a choice. The one choice that you have to make is to give up your choice. This is a lot of accepting that what and who you are is on full display for God to see. And you are nothing before God. And you are in a state of absolute, abject poverty spiritual before God. And without him, what you are worth is nothing and you deserve death. That's point blank, ground zero. If you don't know God, that's where you have to start. Your recognition of your lot before the ever living God has to be acknowledged. That's baseline. It's baseline because otherwise you'll have no reason to die. You will still think you're bringing something of worth. If you had anything of worth, his sacrifice wouldn't be needed. Many can't get past that hurdle. That's the biggest hurdle for many to get past, is realizing that you don't have anything to offer him, that he has everything to offer you. And what he's offering you is so not you that it includes a complete removal of you. Think about that for a minute. There's so little of you to bring that in order for you to even be where he is, you have to be fully removed and replaced with him. That's how little value you bring to the table. You literally have to die to who you are to be raised to who he is in order to be where he is. So, no, you don't bring anything to the table. He is a conversation away. And he'll direct you. Many don't want to think that he talks, but he does. He speaks. He speaks. I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live, meaning I'm still alive, but my spiritual man is crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. Yet not I, but Christ lives in me. So while my soul is being saved because of my spiritual decision to put my spiritual man to death so that I can live Christ's life, so he can control what happens to my soul, that's pivotal. Your soul is in the balance. That's what the devil is fighting for. The wager is your soul. And your corrupted spiritual man is taking your soul to hell. Christ died so that you can replace that spiritual man with his spiritual life. If you want to break down, this is it. Your spiritual man, corrupted, needs to die and be replaced with God's spiritual life in you, so that by that measure, your soul can be saved. Not by your old man's measure, but by your new man's measure, which is him. The perfect life that he lived, that he is allowing you to live out in your world, that is your escape, which leaves none of you, none of your old traits, none of it to exist anymore. It's a replacing. It's not an adding to, it's a replacing. It's not next to, it's replacing. It's not on top of, it's replacing. Replacing. It's the only way you can die. In any case, I wouldn't have topics for next week yet. Um, for those who knew about the traveling that the wife and the young one is doing, that helped to try and get that moving, she is halfway across the country now. Um, they're on the back end of the trip. They just made it out of Oklahoma and are heading to Colorado today. Should be there today. It's quite the trek when it's you and a little person. So they're traversing right now in Colorado, should be in Colorado in another 4 hours. And then from there, they're going to try and get to Utah, where we have some family there that she'll stay with. Then from Utah, hopefully go to Oregon. Lori, if you're in here, you need to get a hold of her. She's trying to see if she can crash at your guys' place in Oregon, possibly to try and break up the trip a little bit more. And to try and avoid having to deal with a whole lot of hotel stays. I don't trust hotels. So I sent you an inbox. If you can reply to me, that'd be great. I know I saw you in here. Okay, good. All right, good. I already talked to Brian too. So, and then they'll hopefully will be here by Monday. And it's been 3 weeks of too long for me. So I know she wanted to go see her family, but man, we can't do this. This 3.5 weeks, almost a month. Not again. Not gonna happen again. Not gonna happen again. Not twice. Not twice. Not twice. I mean, I did pretty good for a batching around, with my boys and stuff. I did pretty good. They're not dead, so that's good. I mean, I fed them, so I guess that's a good thing. That's a good reflection. Like my other kids aren't dead, so I think I did pretty good. Kept the house clean. I did my job. I did the stuff that men don't normally do. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm just joking. Okay. In any case, thank you for all the prayers and assistance that people have offered. You have no idea how instrumental you were in that endeavor to try and get them back across the country, especially driving. So anyway, we'll be on Too Strong tonight. Now, Too Strong tonight, it's very imperative that you tune in tonight on Too Strong. We're covering something that I think many would benefit from the perspective we're going to bring about this. But if you haven't seen the video that's going around from the Dodgers baseball team, where they had a depiction of a cross, and this guy was on the cross and another man gyrating on the person on this cross, and were involved in all sorts of sexual acts on the stage. Okay. You probably don't want to miss our take on that one. I'm just saying, if you don't make any other Too Strong in the next couple of weeks, don't miss this one. go grab the link, go share, go do that. Um, I just dropped the link to the website. Um, I'll bring it up here real quick. This looks like this straight talk. The title will say "Tell It Like It Is," but that's because it's my old um, title that I used to have for my old channel that I changed, but I can't change the website name just yet. I have to go through a whole bunch of rigmarole for that. But this is the web page. Okay. I will be adding to my blog. You only have one thing on there right now, but I will be adding stuff to it. For time here to it. So right, Father, I haven't posted anything on since 2021, but I have that. And this is where you would go for, if you click on merchandise, it'll take you to the store, which is this. When you click on merchandise, all right. So this is what you will see when you get there. This is the store from my website. So I have the wisdom calls from the street, front and back, and please, please, please find wisdom on the front and back. And then the take it to the author mugs and cups and okay. So there you have that. Feel free to check it out. No requirements, but go check it out. Even if you just follow it for the blog, it'd be great. Freethinker is. I have to get the new design back. I had the guy that originally did the design for it. He still has the copy of it. So I need to get that copy so I can put it on apparel there. So once I get that from him, I'll be able to put it up. But yeah, I did pay him for coming up with the design. So it's not my design, but the Freethinker one I'm going to get put up there eventually. So there it is. So make sure you catch Too Strong tonight. Savage Patriots will be on tonight at 6:30 as well, and we'll be discussing the three very more important candidates that have put their name in the hat: DeSantis, Tim Scott, and Trump, and the merits of all of their platforms. We're not going to be talking about Trump the person. We're going to see what their platforms are, measure them against each other, and see which one seems to have the right layout, proper procedure for America. We're going to cover all of that. So, and then I'm not sure about the mix tonight. We should have an episode. Last night we had a couple of, um, what would you call them? Conflicts of time. So that's why we didn't have one last night. I don't know. I think we should be able to because I think you are a territory, aren't you? So it might work there. You'd have to check and see. Try your address, and if it doesn't work, let me know. You can always email me if it doesn't work, so I can take a gander and see what the process is. If you need to email here, and that way I can take a look into what might and might not have to happen in order for it to take place. Okay. Um, have I heard about what, Lisa? I don't know what you're. Have I heard about what? I'm looking to see what you might have said, but I don't see it. Mm, no, don't see what you're referring to. Can you tell me what you're referring to? Okay, okay, sounds good. I'll look for it. In the meantime and in between time, folks, thank you for tuning in. Um, I will be back on Monday. Um, I know there's a series in my head somewhere. I just have to have it break out so I can know exactly what. There are tons of things I want to talk about. Doesn't mean he wants to talk about them, so I'm waiting. And when he tells me to talk about them, I'll talk about them if ever. So. All right. Cool. Y'all have a grand rest of the week. We'll catch you on the other programs. And until then, wisdom calls to you from the streets. Please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.
Hold tight the dreams, for if dreams die, rely on yourself and no way